Okay, you can get it now. Shown you the GDPR, isn't she? Yes, I did that. That is a pin code on there. If you like to get it online, you can. I'll tell you this as well. If you'd like to get e-readers or anything like that, and that's when your pins get reloaded when you sign into this because you need to read. There you go. All right. Good. Right. So just pop your card on. There we go. If you just pop all the books on at once. All at once, yeah. There we go.
Do you want me to click as I go on?
Yeah. Yeah, good idea.
Okay.
Surely you're not.
No problem, you're more than welcome. Enjoy. Bye-bye then.
Or do they just generally have you around? It's just a massive ditch.
Yeah. Wow. 6. That's line 1. Oh, it's right on the bottom, isn't it? Line 6. Line 6.
520,000
Hi BookTube. I hope you like that little clip of me shelf surfing at my local library. All the photographs in this video were taken in and around the building because I felt I wanted to make a little homage to my favorite book hangout. I've been talking so often about the library, haven't I? And I thought I should introduce everybody properly. The photograph you see now is the building. It is small at the front, yeah, but it's fairly deep. And there's some open floor space in the children's section. So, it has toys so parents can come browse for books and chat and know that their children have a safe space to play. There are events specifically designed for children, which is great. There's a private meeting room, which can be hired, and that gets used by various local groups. I think there's a history society and a book club and a knitting group that all get together there. It also offers a lot of community services, like it will help anyone who's older and they didn't get a chance to get tech savvy on their job, say, and they'd like to know how to use their mobile phone or their tablet better. It helps people with disabilities apply for parking permits, and our local members of parliament have often used the library for what they call community surgeries, which is where you can book some time and you can come talk to the person you elected, or even if you didn't elect them, you can still talk to them and tell them about any significant local issues. Today, we are going to talk about The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw, published in 2020 by Pushkin Press. This is the third consecutive library book that I've read as part of my Read What You Own challenge that I started on the 1st of November. This book was one of those happy accidents, and I think every book lover watching right now is going to know what I mean, because they'll have experienced something similar, where you find a book that you weren't looking for. I mean, you couldn't look for it because you didn't know the author, didn't know the title, but when you read it, when you finished it, you're so glad that the book found you. So, can I pitch this title? Well, this is a collection of short stories that are tender and close up, and sometimes funny portraits of American Black women, old and young, married and single, religious and not so much, straight and gay. I was listening to a review of the book recorded by the booktuber To Be Black and Loved, and you'll see a link to that channel in my description box. And they referred to Philyaw's work as, quote, love letter to the complex humanity of Black womanhood and girlhood. And I asked permission to quote that phrase because as soon as I heard it, I thought, I'm not going to come up with a better summary. Let's talk more about this process of accidental discovery. I was paging through our library's ebook app, which I have on my mobile phone, and I had no destination in mind. I literally was just swiping through all the titles that had not been taken out, and I was waiting for something to catch my eye. Well, right away, the title made me smile. The peach on the cover made me curious in a salacious sort of way, but there was a pink background, which it suggested that inside there would be something gentle, or maybe positive or funny, and possibly dealing with themes of love. And given that the last novel I read, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Of Love and Other Demons, where none of the characters had any idea how to love, I was hoping that Deesha Philyaw's book would introduce me to some characters who, well, either knew how to love, learned how to love, or at least learned what love was not. And in that regard, the book did deliver. The ebook version of The Secret Lives of Church Ladies was 218 pages long. We'll talk a little bit about the author. Deesha Philyaw was born in Florida. She earned a BA in economics from Yale and a master's in education from Manhattanville College. Now, in 2007, while she was living in Pittsburgh, she began to write fiction, and she described herself at the time as needing something that was just hers. Philyaw also said, "I was writing about these women who were dissatisfied because I was dissatisfied. I gave my discontent to my characters. Many women who grew up in church were taught to tamp down what felt good. So you have secrets, shame, fear. I escaped mostly unscathed, but I was interested in the women who didn't. How did they get free?" The Secret Lives of Church Ladies was Philyaw's debut production in 2020, and it sold 30,000 copies in the first 6 months, which was a record for the publisher's West Virginia University Press. The book quickly attracted attention and awards. It won the Penn Faulkner Award. It won the $20,000 Story Prize, the LA Times Award for First Fiction, and it was a finalist in the National Book Awards. Very unusual for a collection of short stories to get that much excitement and praise so quickly. Deesha Philyaw is currently working on a novel and co-producing a television series based on The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. I got most of my biographical information from an article appearing in Slate Magazine online, and I'm going to include a link in the description box because I would have loved to carry on sharing more details than probably was necessary, but the article was that interesting, so I recommend checking it out. Now, I'm going to set aside my usual questions about setting and narrative voice because the treatment of these, it differs from story to story. What is common to all of Deesha's stories is Black homes, Black families, and churches because they are spiritual families. And we all have an idealized, truly in our head version of family and home, isn't it? And in that idealized version, we're all supposed to feel that we belong. We're all supposed to feel accepted and loved. Homes and families are supposed to guide us, support us. Real families we know fall short. And again, the root cause of failure in Philyaw's fictional families is the disproportionate authority and privilege that's given to men. And where religion combines with this privilege, it just makes matters worse. And I loved the irony of one story whose title character was Jael, the biblical Jael. Jael lives with her grandmother who, without Jael knowing, has discovered her granddaughter's diary with its confessions of an attraction to the pastor's wife, Sadie. And all the grandmother's store of memorized biblical passages, they're summoned up to help her decide what is she going to do, because the church has taught her that her granddaughter is an abomination. As she says, in her heart, her spirit, her mind, that ain't of God. Now, what makes the story genius is that Jael follows in the footsteps of her biblical namesake. She plans and executes a deadly revenge on a neighborhood philanderer, an enemy of women. The unavoidable question that all the stories press the reader to decide is, how exactly should a believer serve God? Is it always necessary to take instruction from human representatives who are usually male? Or can you be faithful and yet also respond to your own inner sense of what is truly good and evil? And that question's especially pertinent because many of Deesha Philyaw's female main characters are queer. And their coming out forces their family to make a choice between the love that they did feel for their child and the love that, as they're taught it, the love for God as defined by church doctrine. And in these stories also, the presence of men, well, there's definitely a presence of sexually interested men, but a crying lack of men who love. And they're so rare that when they do appear, as one does in the story called How to Make Love to a Physicist, the female protagonist, Lyra, is scared to death of the guy. And she's scared because he just can't be real. Does this book fit a genre category? I'm not sure if there's a name for it. I tell you what Deesha Philyaw's stories remind me of. They remind me of Anne Tyler, because there's just this same intimate, homely feeling, like you're the invisible guest in a house. You can see and hear everything, but you don't affect the character interactions. But also where you feel that the strengths and the flaws of the characters as portrayed, it's just the right alchemy. It brings you as close to real people as you can imagine fictional people being. Now, it was really important for Philyaw to use black characters, to have black characters interacting with black characters, to leave the white gaze out of the book. And I was grateful for this. Back when I reviewed Keisha the Scat, remember, I remarked on how I find black literature to be a window. And probably what I should have said was no, not a window, but a collection of windows. So each one giving me a slightly different view. And so as I keep finishing books, a more complex portrait builds over time. And that's what I hoped that the personal project of reading black literature would accomplish. What stands out as an aspect of this book or its author? Well, I wish I could pinpoint exactly what it is about Philyaw's choice of words, her description, her dialogue, that creates an honesty that you can't help reacting to. There's a worshipful character to this book. Now, all authors have the privilege of acting like God, don't they? You're creating worlds, you're creating characters. But Deesha seems to be advocating for a God who loves, a God like the one Caroletta describes in the opening story, Eula, one who has become human. And as a result, they understand the human need to be held and known intimately. Is there problematic content in the book? Yeah, because fiction about families, about real families, is going to have sex and it's going to have violence. Now, Deesha Philyaw, yes, she talks about both. But her emphasis, right, where most of her words go, is on portraying the effects of being loved or not being loved on women. Any suggestions for related or follow-up reading? Yeah, I'm going to take a cue from Jonathan at To Be Black and Loved. In his review of The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, he quoted from the third book in Bell Hook's series on love, titled Salvation, Black People and Love, and in particular Bell Hook's thoughts on the influence of religion on people's ideas of love. So I'm going to definitely have to work that series into my reading. Okay, now, as you know, I have committed not to buy any books for the next year. What I have done is start a new Amazon wish list, and it's especially for Read What You Own. And every time I watch a creator on BookTube and they recommend a book, and I'm thinking, really like that book, but what I'm doing is I'm adding it to the list, but I'm also using Amazon's comment facility. So I'm noting the date that I heard about it, the BookTube presenter, and a summary of their thoughts on the book. It occurred to me yesterday that I could do a really weird version of a book haul, couldn't I? By just talking through that list. And it would also let me give a shout out to some of my favorite booktubers. So look out for that. But before that, look out for another Middlemarch meditation, as I promised, yeah? Thanks for checking out this video, everybody. Please have happy reading experiences. Take care. Bye-bye.